Welcome to Win with Richardson and Richardson. What's important now? Success in business most often comes down to hard work, not by silver bullets and quick fixes. It's knowing where to focus that hard work that's key to winning. Join sales prospecting expert and 3-time seven-figure business founder Carrie Richardson and managing partner of R&R Consulting and former owner of Doberman Technologies, Ian Richardson, for radical honesty regarding strategic planning, accountability, and execution that will get you the systematic results you're working toward. Let's get into today's episode. Thought leader and your host, Carrie Richardson.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Carrie Richardson. I'm a partner at Richardson & Richardson, and today I am your host for Win, What's Important Now. Welcome back to John Alberg. John is the CEO of Waident Technology Solutions in Chicago and was recently featured in Channel Pro Network, which was where I caught a few tips that I wanted to learn a little bit more about, primarily around how Waident over the last 20 years and through 5 acquisitions has managed to retain many of their employees for over 14 years, which I think in the MSP space is very impressive. John, welcome. Thanks for joining us again.
Thanks for having me.
So what I wanted to talk to you about today was your process around recruiting and retaining talent. It looks like Waident has done an exceptional job of finding the right people and incentivizing them to stay long term. How'd you do it?
Yeah, I wish I knew exactly what I planned on or doing it. It's just one of those, I do what I think is right and it works. Again, we're a bit different in a sense because we'll have prospective clients and we'll ask the question, okay, tell me about your tenure with your team. And that's usually because they worked with another MSP where it's, I really love Bob. And then 6 months later, Bob is gone. Then I got Dan and I really don't like Dan, but then 6 months, Dan was gone. So it was like a revolving door. We just don't have that problem at all. I remember one time in an interview, I'm like, we fired more people than quit. And she's like, what? And I'm like, I guess this is not good to say on a job interview. But the whole point is people don't want to leave, and we don't take firing lightly at all. We haven't done it a lot. A lot of it is more on the culture side, where I try to give as much flexibility as they need. Part of the one culture aspect is people first. It's family first. We'll bring people on and we're like, look, we're an organization that if you work more than 40 hours, you might get yelled at. Not because we don't want to pay overtime or any of that. It's just we want you to have good home life and free time. And we can all help manage our calendars. You're not stuck working on weekends and stuck working at nights and working 60, 80 hours a week. You just don't have to. And in our company, that's never happened. So that's one of the drivers that people look at and get. We're big enough and we have a team. I remember hiring someone out in our Milwaukee office, and he has 2 young daughters and I have 2 older daughters. When I started the company, every day I'd walk home for lunch because my office is walking distance. I would have lunch with them. And when they came home from school, I would manage my schedule. I'd come home when they're home from school and I'd work later at night when they're in bed. So I told them, I'm like, I never want to hear you say I couldn't make my kids thing at 2 o'clock because I had to work. That's complete BS for your schedule. If you absolutely have to do something, hand it off to someone else. You need to do that. A month later, he was talking to me going, this is the first year I'm going to miss the Brewers home opener. I'm like, why? And he goes, well, I just started working here. I need to work. And I'm like, no, you don't. Take that day off and go to the Brewers. People would get mad at you if you missed it because, quote, you had to work. You're not going to remember that day at work, but you are going to remember that day where I started a job and I went to the game. We have that core philosophy that people do. Work as teams. We don't have egos, so the techs like it. And they learn. What I've found is if a tech has worked in another MSP, we're different in a lot of ways. So we brought on someone who's, I'm working a ton. We're like, you don't have to do that here. And he's like, geez, when I started, they talked to me for a day. And then day 2, it's just like, here's clients, go do your stuff. We don't do that here. We have a 2-month onboarding for employees. So we know what they're doing, how they're doing it, how we're limiting them, what we're training. They sit with peers. So you don't have to worry about that. Again, we're a big open book here. We want somebody, great. Take somebody who's only worked here 3 months or on a help desk. say, hey, I wish we could do this, or I wish we could do that. That's a really good idea. Let's look into that. We have policies and procedures all over the place, but none of them are written in stone. We fully expect to have an eraser because these are going to change, and we love changing them. When someone has a good idea, and we're like, okay, we're all in. The last one was years ago, and we switched to a new documentation platform. We just invested, I don't know, 50 grand into this documentation platform and a whole bunch of hours. And it was good. We weren't in love with it, but it was better than SharePoint and everything. Then suddenly a new tool came along. I saw it and I'm like, well, that's interesting. So I flipped it over to my CIO who's in charge of it. And he's, we just built this other thing. I don't want to look at this. And I'm like, just look at it. And then he came back the next day and he goes, all right, you're going to hate me. I'm going to throw away what we just did and go use this new stuff. And I'm like, dig into it a little bit more. And he did. And he's, I know we just spent time and money. This other one's better. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. You can't just stick with something that's just okay if there's something better. And we dove in head first and changed how we document things, which is key for us. We document everything. So once we change our documentation process, that's a really big deal. So we give people a voice. We communicate with them. We want to hear their ideas. We pay fairly. You're not going to make the most money here, but you're certainly not going to make the least. You have freedom to do what you want. Now, after the pandemic, everyone has freedom to work from home 2 days a week, and they're in the office 3 days a week. Some people are all over that. Other people, like me, it's just like, no, I'm going to the office all the time. It really doesn't matter. So it's kind of 50-50. Half the people just come in all the time. The other people don't. Early on, years ago, I remember talking to my operations person, and I said, in the corporate world, we used to have summer Fridays where you could just take the Friday off once a month. That'd be cool. How come we can't do that? And of course, we were a company of 6 people. And my office manager operations person was like, I don't know how we're going to do that. And I'm like, let's figure out how. And then we figured out, again, I think oddly, for me, I'm like, okay, if what I would really like to do, since I can take off whenever I want, but if I was an employee, I'd want to take off every month, a Friday and a Monday, so I can have a nice long weekend. You don't have to take vacation time. You just work a little bit more each week to make up your time. But now you got a 4-day weekend every single month. Now, the interesting part is there's only probably 2 people in the company who's ever done it. Isn't this a good thing? For me, I'd be mapping it out like every other month at least, going, all right, I'm going to go do this. But people just don't do it. So I think a lot of it's just the culture. Then we hire for culture, so we meet with them. That's where we're different. I remember working with a recruiter a long time ago, and I'm telling the recruiter, I'm like, we hire culture first, talent second, and skills and experience third. And the recruiter's, I can't do culture. I don't know how to do talent. I have to anchor off of skills and experience. I'm like, that doesn't work. We tried that years ago where we hire someone for all the skills and experience, but if the culture's not there and the talent's not there, given a certain amount of time, they hate you and you hate them. So it just doesn't work. So we flipped it all. And again, we have a 10-page hiring protocol of, we ask all the same questions. We know what we're doing.
So one of the things I wanted to ask you about is one of your corporate policies is hire for weird.
Yes.
What does that mean?
I started calling it that probably 10 or so years ago. There's a CEO that I know of a company. I really like him and respect him and everything. And I would go to his office and he would every summer bring in an intern. And they were in finance, real estate. So these interns were like Yale and Harvard and like incredibly smart people. And I'd be like, wow, they're great. I would talk to them and be super impressed. And then one year he brought someone in and I'm like, eh. And he goes, yeah, I'm the same way. And he figured out later, he was like, I figured it out. And I'm like, what? And he goes, the person I hired was just not weird enough. And I'm like, we started laughing. Actually, that makes sense. Because then I started thinking on my own team, we hire people with odd backgrounds or odd hobbies. They're weird in a good way. Like now we have someone who used to be a probation officer who's a business analyst doing project and client management. For me, I talked to him and I'm like, all those skills that you had to deal with people out of jail and all that transferred directly over. And like within a month, it was just like perfect fit and it's amazing. We have someone else who used to be a professional poker player that did IT, but that's what they did. And again, just made sense. Our CIO is, you talk to him, you never know he's an IT guy. He's in a band, he homebrews, does all the anti-stereotypical IT guy stuff. That just started becoming part of our interview process where I stole it from, I think, the CEO of Zappos. I just say on a scale of 1 to 10, how weird are you? And it's actually, for us, it's a really interesting question because we have some people that are flat out, expression, no comment. They're like, I don't know. I don't think I'm that weird. And it just doesn't go over. And you're like, probably not weird enough. But you ask the right person and they start laughing. They go, I'm a solid 7. And here's what I do. And this is what I think it's weird. And then they'll talk for 5 minutes on themselves. And that's what we want. We need to know who you are. So we just ask that question. Among others, I ask, if you were on a reality TV show, which one would it be? And that one goes crazy. I've literally had people go, I'd be on Naked and Afraid. I'd be on The Bachelor. I'd be on Survivor. I would be singing. It goes all over the place. But again, you get the right person, they'll talk for 5 minutes on why they want to be on that reality TV show. And
Wait, what reality TV show do you want to be on?
Oh, for me, it's always been Survivor. Problem is I'm too old now. But years ago when I was younger, I wanted to go on with my best friend. He's a ex-Marine, big, strong guy. And I'm like, I want to go on with you, because they had like friends and family, some episodes, because I think he would love it and I would have fun with it. Sadly, I will not go on it. We'll
Still
see.
time.
Yeah, someday.
I understand that one of the things that you guys do differently is put all of your expectations right within your job postings. Tell me what they looked like before you started doing that.
We just write some sort of job description. Let's do, quote, the standard interview process. And we did it, but the problem is it's time consuming. Then we took a totally different angle, and I stole part of it from a friend of mine when he was hiring. So we're like, okay, here's the job description. We just want to put everything in it so there's no surprises. They know where it is. We're not going to hide the salary or anything. It's just all there. So when somebody looks at it, goes, okay, I know what I'm getting into. On a bigger picture, I think, and I tell people all the time, how you get hired is reflective of the culture of the company. And I feel bad because we've interviewed people who are like, oh, thank you. You've communicated. We interviewed. We did all this stuff. You turned me down, but still thank you. Because I can't tell you how many times I'll go in for an interview and I hear nothing, or I'll apply and I hear nothing. We just think that's rude. So we have to get around that. To make things more efficient, what we do is we'll put the job posting out there, and pretty much anyone who can somewhat qualify for the job then gets a list of a dozen questions. And some are basic. How much money are you looking for? And hey, do you have a car? Because you might have to drive around to different clients, if it's a tech position. And then we ask some culture questions, tell me a story when you helped somebody. And then we'll ask a few tech questions that we fully expect somebody can copy the question, put it in Google, and then paste in the answer. That's fine. That's what techs do all day long for a big part. But the interesting part is, if for the tech positions, if 100 people apply and I send out 100 questions, usually 90 people won't even answer the questions. So those are 90 people I would not want to interview, waste their time or anything. Out of the 10, 5 usually just answer yes, no, not too much there. But you always get 1 or 2 that are excited, going, oh my gosh, I get to write to tell you why I'm so good for this position. It takes 5 minutes, and they just write, and we look at it, and those are the ones we go, okay, that makes sense. So then we will schedule a 15 to 30 minute culture video call. This is just to know each other. You can ask questions, we can ask questions. If they pass that, then we bring them to an office, and then we have kind of 45 minutes to an hour, 2 of them. First one's culture, and we tell them, this is about culture. This is just get to know us. We want to learn about you to make sure we want to work with you, but more importantly, you need to learn about us to make sure you want to work with us. So we do that. That's why I ask the weird questions and have fun. It's interesting because the HR person's asking very traditional HR flat questions, and then I pop up with, hey, what reality show do you want to be on? When I come out with those earlier, if they seem nervous, because that helps with that. And then after that, then there'll be more of the technical side, no matter what the position is. Right now, we're hiring a project manager. So that is people who are involved in project manager who can sit there and go, tell me how you think. What do you do in project management? So it's getting down to the actual job. On the tech side, our side will literally put the fear in them in a sense and say, this is what it's like to work here. You got so many tickets, it's high pace, you need to do this, but you have all these opportunities, and we want to let them know day one what they're getting into, not BS our way in and say, no, this is really mellow and it's great. And then they start and go, what did you sell me? This isn't it. If it's a technical person, we give them a tech test. It's our homemade tech test. It's more of a test for us in the sense of how they think, that we just created, 50 different help desk questions. How do you do this? We give it to them. We say, you got 30 minutes. You can use any resource you want. At end of 30 minutes, just go to this last section and say, why did you answer the ones you did, in what order? So we want to know how they think. They'll never answer all 50. We do that on purpose. We've only had one person answer all 50, and amazingly, they got them all right. So we're not too sure how they end up doing it. But usually they don't. They'll do 25 or 30, but then they have to explain what they're doing. And then our CIO and other techs will look at it and go, how did they answer questions? Was it wrong answer? Some of them were basic, some were more complex. But by the end of that, we're in a good space to figure out would they be a good person or not. We vetted their talent, we vetted their culture, we vetted their skills. But the good thing about it is we can hire a position, we end up only spending time to physically interview probably 3 or 4 people. We're not interviewing dozens to find the right person because we've already weeded that out and made sure that the process goes. So that's how we do it. That's worked great. We've been doing it that way for 10 years or more. And rarely do we find someone who's not a good fit. The only time we find, which we can't do, is, okay, you bring on a frontline tech. He doesn't have a ton of experience, but he's showing that everything's good. After a year, if they're not advancing on their tech skills, it's okay. So we're walking through that. And some people in tech just hit their limit, whatever that is, and they're good at what they're doing, but they're never going to be a network administrator. They're never going to be doing different things. And as a company, we go, okay, great. Are we okay with that person just stalled in this position and they're happy and we're happy? Or do we, for their own good, push them out to go find something better? Or do we push them to advance into a different role? Again, we usually find a bad hire, if there is one, months and months later, because we can't figure out how to predict how they're going to be in 6 or 8 months. But there's still good culture fit and everything is there usually. So it feels bad.
Is there a difference when you're hiring someone in a non-technical role?
Yeah, not really. Like right now we're doing project manager and we want some technical knowledge, but they're not a tech. And we do the exact same thing. Natalia, who you've met, she's in marketing and we did the exact same thing.
50 tech questions?
No, but we gave her 12 questions. We left them all except for the last 3 that were tech and just put them in for, what project management tools have you used? Or tell me a time when a marketing thing you did failed. So we just replace those. No matter what the role is, we take the first ones that are kind of culture, and then it's the last 3 that are about the position. We just replace them. And we do the exact same thing. We ask the same interview questions. There's usually not a test. So marketing didn't have a tech test.
Imagine trying to fill that out as a sales rep.
Yeah.
Like this. I guess I'll just make up all the answers and see what happens.
That would be funny though, and weird, going, okay, I know you're not a tech, but we do tech. Answer these 50 tech questions, see what they do.
That sounds very stressful.
A little.
Are there any other pieces of advice that you would give to MSPs that are looking to hire great technical talent?
The first advice is don't settle. I learned that a long time ago where it's, we really need a tech, really need a tech, really need a tech. And then you're not really happy with any of them. You go, okay, Bob's the best at it we talk to. We think they'll be okay. We just don't do that. So we might be desperate for a tech and we'll spend 3 months to find the right person. Always, because inevitably the wrong person doesn't fit. There's problems, there's cleanup, and you're looking for another person anyway. So just do that. Treat it seriously. The challenge with smaller MSPs, and I was there, is when do you hire? And it was always, when I hit this threshold, we can afford it, we'll hire. But that threshold is usually past the time when you really should have brought someone in, because when we bring someone in, we know there's going to be 3 months of ramp up and learning before they're in a good productive spot. You absolutely need someone. And if I find someone tomorrow, it's going to be 3 to 6 months before they're making a good impact. So it has to be I get it, I'm willing to accept that, and hold out for the right person. And again, my advice is the right person is culture fit, talent, and skills and experience. And as techs know, because I've explained it to techs, it's like this every day. You don't know what that is. You don't know what's changed.
Not anymore.
Yeah, you need the talent to be able to figure that out. So why would I hire someone for static skills that in 2 or 3 years are going to be meaningless? They need to be able to move for it. So that's why I anchor off of the talent side. And talent it's actually easier than you think to interview for. Most people are like, oh, you can't do that. For me, it's stories. Tell me a story when you're fixing something and blew up on you. If you're on the other side of the table and they're saying all the right stuff, you're going, yep, you get it. Tell me a time when you were thrown into something you didn't know and you had to figure it all out. You get it. Good indications of where talent is. And again, we hire culture, talent, and skill second. People don't want to leave. We do lots of fun stuff at work and treat them like family and know they're a person and give them flexibility, and it's a win.
All right. Well, I think that's a great place to wind down today. I want to thank you for joining us yet again here on WIN and sharing your knowledge with the rest of the IT channel. Wish you a lot of success in the future, and hopefully we'll think of another topic and get to do this again real soon.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Have a great day.
You've been listening to WIN with Richardson and Richardson. What's important now? We're so glad you've joined us and know you're one step closer to winning big in your business too. We'd love to connect with you outside of the show. If you have any questions or comments, please reach out to connect@rnr.consulting. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast so you'll easily know when new episodes are available. Until next time, you can win, and we're here to help.